Niyamya Bharata Shava Tasmat, therefore, Tvam, you, Indriyani, senses, Ado, in the beginning, Niyamya, by regulating, Bharatar Shiva, O chief among the descendants of Bharat, Papmanam, the great symbol of sin, Prajahi, curb, he, certainly, Enam, this, Jnana, of knowledge, Vijnana, and scientific knowledge, of the pure soul, Nashanam, the destroyer. Translation. Therefore, O June, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. It is explained thus in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 9th Chapter, Text 31. Jnanam paramaguyam me yad vijnana samanvitam saharasyam tarangam cha grihana gaditam maya. The knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord Himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us the general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna Consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna Consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulator principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of God, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Ganim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram. So this is a reply to Arjun's question. Arjun is inquiring from Krishna, right? How is it that we perform sinful activities even though we don't want to? It's like we're forced to, right? That's Arjun's question. So Krishna gives the reply. And the reply is, it's due to lust, right? Lust, kama. And Srila Prabhupada nicely explains in the purport about this lust. So he says that originally, what there is in everyone is love of God, love for Krishna, right? Originally, everyone has love for Krishna. Everyone. It's natural. Love for Krishna doesn't come from outside. Love for Krishna comes from within. Just like Prabhupada gives the example. A small child. Small child, in the beginning, when he's born, he can't walk. After 1.5 years, then he can walk. When the body is... So, walking doesn't come from somewhere else. It's in the child. At a certain stage, he can walk. But it requires some practice. And then he can walk. In the same way, love for Krishna doesn't come from outside anywhere. It's in all of us. It's our natural propensity to love Krishna. And real love means love of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are so many songs, so many cinema songs. Maine pyar kiya. Right? But what is this pyar? Huh? Love. Is this love? No. Krishna says it's lust. It's lust. Big difference. But originally it was love. Love for Krishna. But it became khatta ho gaya. It became sour. Just like you have milk. Milk. But if you put some sour thing, it becomes dahi. Becomes dahi. Right? So our original love for Krishna, when it comes in contact with the material world, it becomes changed. Right? Badli ho gaya. And it becomes what? What does it become? It's like milk becomes dahi. Our love becomes lust. Lust. Lust, Krishna says, is the enemy. Lust is our enemy. Some boy and girl, they come together. They like each other very much. Right? And there's so much lust. Right? We read in the paper, the boy killed the girl. Why? You read, right, in the paper? They're lovers. If they love, why he killed her? Why he killed her? Because it's not love, it's lust. So in every human society, there's an arrangement to control this lust. What is that arrangement? It's called marriage. Right? one man is married to one lady is married to one man. Arrangement to satisfy the lust, right? But that whole world is thinking this is love, but it's not love, it's lust. Real love is love for God, love for Krishna. But in the material world, that love becomes distorted. It deteriorates. And we think, I love my country, I love my community, I love my gaonwalas. Yes. So many people working in Bombay, when they get chutti, where do they go? Gaon gai. So they love their village. But this is all misdirected. It doesn't bring us satisfaction. It's not complete. Complete attraction can only be with the living entity and the Supreme Lord. Between the soul, Atma, and the Supreme Soul, Paramatma. Right? So this Srila Prabhupada is explaining. He explains about Gyan. Gyan means to understand the difference between the soul and the body. Right? Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehi no smin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dahantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. That first one has a baby body. Everybody here had a baby body. Can you show me your baby body now? No. If I take everyone's photograph of when you were a baby and I put it in a hat, can you pick out everyone in the room? No. Because the body changed. Body changed. It changed from baby body to a young child's body to a young person's body, then middle-aged, then old age, right? So Krishna explains that this body is changing, but the soul inside the body remains the same. And Srila Prabhupada explains that although one is old man, still he remembers when he played cricket. Now he can't play cricket, but he remembers when he had a body he could play cricket. Why? Because there's something in the body, even though the body is changing, that remains the same. And that is the soul. So this is Gyan. So what's Vigyan? Prabhupada explains also. Jnana, and he explains Vijnana. Vijnana is knowledge of that relationship between the soul and the Supreme Soul, between Atma and Paramatma. It's not like some philosophers, there's some idea that there's the Atma can become the Paramatma. This is not possible. Krishna in another verse in Bhagavad, the 2nd chapter, he explains that never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor did we ever cease to be. Right? So Krishna is claiming the individuality of himself and the soul. Right? Arjuna was on the battlefield. There were so many warriors. He was about to fight the battle. Right? So Krishna explained that they are all individual souls. You cannot kill them. Nahanyate hanyamani shrire. Only you can kill the body, you can't kill the soul. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna. Right? So if we're not this body, if we're eternal spirit souls, how are we going to find happiness in this temporary material world? We're eternal. We're not these bodies, right? Eternal doesn't die. What does it mean to be eternal? Doesn't die. But yet, because we have the material body, we are threatened by non-existence. Whatever anyone works for in this material world, any material thing, when I leave this world, there's no benefit from that material work. Just like the company, Apple Computer, Steve Jobs, right? Famous person? Famous person. So much wealth. He made Apple computers. But when he died, he went somewhere else, and Apple Computers is somewhere else. He couldn't, although he did hard work, he couldn't take Apple Computers with him. Separate, right? So anything, whatever it is we work hard for in this material world, in the material sense, we cannot take it with us. It's separate, right? Krishna gives this knowledge to Arjuna so that Arjuna can understand that he should perform his duty. So now the other question is, what is our duty? What is our duty? Huh? So some people think that my duty is to my family. I have an obligation to my country, right? Or I have a duty to my community, or I have a duty to my parents, or I have a duty to the demigods. I mean, after all, our parents gave us this body, so we have some obligation. And from the demigods we get sunlight, rain, air, so we have some obligation, right? And this is all true in one sense. We have obligation to all these. But what is the main obligation of anyone in this material world? What's the main obligation that we have? These are all duties, no doubt. But what's the main duty? Yes. To serve the Lord. Why? Because without serving the Lord, then we're stuck here in this material world, birth, death, old age, and disease. So the duty of anyone who's come to the human form of life is to solve the problems of life. And what are the problems? Birth, death, old age, and disease. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to become old man. Disease. Huh? Who wants disease here? Raise your hand. Koi bimari chahiye? Nahi chahiye. Kyun nahi chahiye? Nobody wants. But we're forced. You must become diseased. You must become old. And you must die. These are the problems. How to solve this problem? You don't want to become old man, but you're forced to become old man. So, you go to the parliament in Delhi. They can help you? मिस्टर मोदी कुछ कर सकते हैं? बीमारी हो गया, मृत्यु हो जाते हैं, ओ मिस्टर प्राइम मिनिस्टर सेव मी, बचाओ, नहीं हो सकता है. He can't save you. Who can save you? From birth, death, old age and disease. Even if you have the best hospital, Ambani hospital, very costly hospital, can they save you from death? The hospital is there. Is that any guarantee you won't get diseased? So this human form of life is a special arrangement by the Supreme Lord to solve the problems of the real problems of life: birth, death, old age, and disease. And the main problem that we have is these lusty desires. Because of our lusty desires, therefore we remain in this material world, performing all sinful activities. As long as the living entity is sinful, he can't understand what is Gyan, what is Vigyan. नहीं आते हैं. As soon as the living entity becomes free from sin, he becomes eligible to understand, I'm not this body, and that my relationship is with the Supreme Lord in love. But the living entity is, this lust has captured the living entity, right? Lusty desires has captured the living entity. And the living entity on his own has no power to become free from the lust. So how to become free from lust? It requires the mercy of the Lord and the Lord's devotee. That way you can become free from lust, lusty desires. If you have the mercy of the Lord, and that mercy of the Lord comes through the Lord's devotee, then it's possible that one can become free from lust. If one becomes free from lust, then one can understand, I'm not this body. If one can understand I'm not this body, one can understand that my relationship is with the Supreme Lord. Loving relationship is with the Supreme Lord. So this is the Vedic knowledge. This is the essence of Vedic knowledge. Krishna says, Vaidaischya sarvar aham eva vedyo venantakrit vedavid eva chaham. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Right? So the system was that in the young age, the child was sent to the house of the Guru, and what they call the Gurukul. Gurukul, right? So the Guru would teach from the age of 5 years old the science of Krishna consciousness. He would teach the Gurukul students, his students, how to become detached, right? How to perform austerities, right? And children are always happy. They always play. Everything is play for them. So even if they perform austerities in childhood, they don't mind, right? So that's why from the young age it's recommended that one try to understand Krishna consciousness. But Srila Prabhupada says, even if you didn't do that, even if you're a latecomer, still you can practice the process of Bhakti-Yoga, and you can become successful in that practice, which means to become free from lusty desires. And what is that practice? What is the practice of Bhakti-Yoga? What does Prahlad Maharaj say? 9 processes of Bhakti-Yoga. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Shravanam means to hear. Kirtanam means to chant. So just like we're sitting, we're hearing. And someone is speaking, someone is hearing. And in this way, we're performing bhakti. Hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna. Right? When Krishna left Hastinapur after the battle of Kurukshetra, all of the Pandavas, they were very unhappy because Krishna was their everything, but he wanted to go back to Dwarka. So they were very unhappy. Krishna was leaving. Okay? And when Krishna came to Dwarka, outside the city gates, he blew his conch shell. And as soon as all the citizens heard the conch shell of Lord Krishna, they all became very enlivened. All became very enlivened. Very happy that Krishna has come back to Dwarka. So Krishna is all powerful. In Dwarka, Krishna had 16,108 wives. Right? So this is God. God can keep 16,108 wives. Nowadays, a man can't even keep one wife. What to speak of 16,108 wives? And it's not that Krishna was in one queen's house and then 16,000 nights later he was in another queen's house. Not like that. Krishna expanded himself and he was in each and every home of the 16,108 queens. Who can do that? Narad Muni went to Dwarka, and while Narad Muni was in Dwarka, he went to each of the palaces and he saw in one palace Krishna was playing with his children. In another palace, Krishna was playing chess. In another palace, he was speaking with his wife. Each palace, Krishna was doing something different. So this is God. Right? God expands himself. But it's not that, like some people think, that just as we, to fulfill our lusty desires, we get married and have a family. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna married the 16,108 wives simply for their benefit. Right? Because of the queen's intense love for him, therefore he became their husband. Actually, Krishna is not the husband of anyone. But just out of love for his devotees, he played the part of a husband. Because of the devotees' intense love, intense desire to have Krishna as a husband, so Krishna played the part. And anyone who is serious to solve the problems of life can have a relationship with Krishna, either as Krishna's lover, or Krishna's friend, or Krishna's parent, or Krishna's servant. And the process is the same. Shravanam, Kirtanam. Hearing and chanting. One can come to this highest goal of life, love for Krishna, which is natural. It's there. It's inside of all of us. It simply needs to be awakened by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. We can defeat the enemy, our enemy, lust, with the weapon of chanting, with the sword of knowledge, we can defeat the enemy lust. We can cut it out of the heart. Huh? And this is the real purpose of the human form of life. So many lifetimes we had family, we had our Samaj. If you're in the Telugu Samaj, you used to be in the Gujarati Samaj. Before that, you were in the Bihari Samaj. We had Samaj, so many lifetimes Samaj. But we want to get in the Krishna Samaj, the Krishna Parivar. That's the eternal Parivar. This temporary Parivar comes and goes. Sometimes, American, sometimes Russian, sometimes Chinese. Always changing. But once you get in the Krishna Parivar, it's eternal. And what better Parivar than the Krishna Parivar? Huh? You can say, no, I'm Sharma, I'm Naidu. But what is Sharma Naidu? Nothing. You say, I'm Krishna Das. This is real, something that is real. Lord Chaitanya said, what is our identity? Dasana Das. Gopi Bhartu Kamalayor. Dasana Das Das. The servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. Why the gopis? Because they're the highest devotees of Krishna. Highest devotees of Krishna. They have the most intense love for Krishna. So many parivars, so many lifetimes. Now this is an opportunity to use this human form of life to enter into the Krishna Parivar, so that at the end of this life, we'll go back home, back to Krishna Loka, our eternal place, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? We have a few minutes. Are there any questions? Yes. Microphone? Go ahead. Scientific knowledge. This Krishna consciousness is scientific. It's not sentiment. It's a process. Just like if you want water, H2O. 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, you get water. It's a formula. In the same way, getting lust out of the heart and turning that original lust back into love is a science. There's a process. Our original relationship with Krishna, right? We're meant to love Krishna. But now, because our love has become soured, it becomes lust. We're attracted by so many other things, not Krishna. So there's a process for turning that love that has been soured back into its original position of love for Krishna. It's very scientific. It begins with Shravanam Kirtanam and Vishnu Smaranam, remembering Krishna, hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna. Just like if you perform a scientific experiment, you get the result every time, H2O. In the same way, if you perform the process of Bhakti-Yoga, you'll get the result. And the result is freedom from lust, attraction for Krishna, and no attraction for anything in this material world. No attraction. Just like the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan. They were big ministers in the government. They had so much influence, so much power. But they left it. They left it like it was stool, right? In the morning you pass stool, you don't hang around, you go, you leave it, right? So although they had so much power, so much influence, they were in the service of the king, the Nawab Hussain Shah. And he had left the management of the whole government to these two brothers, right? But they left it. So this is, how could they leave it? Because they became absorbed in Krishna Bhakti. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they just wanted to hear Bhagavatam. And they weren't coming to work. So the king came to their house one day and saw they weren't sick, they weren't just coming to the office. So he had them arrested, thrown in jail, right? But they weren't disturbed. Because even in jail they could hear about Krishna and chant Krishna's name. So this is the process, and it works. We just have to follow it. Chanting Hare Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and gradually the lust gets cleared from the heart. That means vijnana, scientific process. Is that okay? Any other question? Yes? Microphone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, how one can check the level of lust by which he is getting affected, even if after coming into the devotional life, even if you are chanting the sufficient round, you are under the shelter of some senior devotee, but still lust hinders your devotional path. So how one can check that, and how one can avoid that to get into that situation, so that...
See, lust is the enemy.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So we have to be aware of that. If we're aware of that, it's like if you have an enemy. The enemy wants to attack you. So you're always cautious of that enemy. You never think the enemy is your friend. You never think the enemy is your friend. You don't take shelter of an enemy, right? So if you understand that lust is the enemy, and how is lust the enemy? Because it keeps us from developing our real love for Krishna. It holds us back. So, Maya, lust is the manifestation of Maya. And Maya is the energy of Krishna. So, just as Krishna is powerful, Krishna's energy is also powerful. You can't defeat Krishna. Neither you can defeat Krishna's energy. We don't have so much Shakti. But Krishna's energy is subservient to Krishna. Maya is not more powerful than Krishna. In front of Krishna, Maya is nothing. So if you keep yourself fixed in Krishna, if we keep ourselves fixed up in Krishna, chanting, reading, doing some seva, then Maya can't touch us. Maya will stay far. If we find that we're being attacked by Maya, that means we have to chant better, fix our mind on this philosophy, and also associate with devotees as much as we can. These are the things that will keep us, because out of the 9 processes, that develops into 64 different items of devotional service. 64, it's in the Nectar Devotion. Sometimes we should have Nectar Devotion class also. We don't have, but we should have, once in a week at least. So there it clearly explains all the 64 items of devotional service, like following Ekadasi, celebrating Janmashtami, 64 items. But there are 5 main items. It's called the Panchanga Bhakti. And these 5 main items are chanting the holy name, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshipping the deity. I said that. Huh? Living in a holy place, worshipping the deity, worshipping Guru. It's not one of them. What's that? Associating with devotees. These 5 things. Out of all the 64 items, these items are very powerful. If you do these on a regular basis, then you'll become strong, and you'll understand your strength. Just like when you eat food, if you're very hungry and you eat food, nobody needs to tell you that you're full. You know, I'm full. I'm okay. I don't need to eat. In the same way, when we practice devotional service properly, we know that we're protected by Krishna. Maya can't influence us. And if we find that Maya's troubling us too much, then we have to perform these processes with more intensity. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. So, even if we are in the condition, Prabhuji, that if we are not able to follow all these 5, so at least there is 1 or 2 like chanting can help us. Suppose we are far away, we cannot live in such holy place, we are not away from association.
You can chant, or even as a householder, you have to eat something. So you offer it to the picture of Krishna, that's deity worship, chanting, doing deity worship. You can read Bhagavatam with your family. There's 3. Come to the temple on Sunday, associate with devotees, 4. And if you in your house, if everything that you eat, you offer to Krishna, your house becomes also a holy place. So living in a holy place, all 5 done.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Absolutely.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhantam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.